Hey everybody, and welcome to the introduction video for our week 1 lab. So this is going to be our introduction and finally getting into the software. So hopefully you watched the getting to know and the introduction to ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Pro, because those will help a lot to just make sure that you understand how to get started and where tools are and just what the fundamentals are of the software. So if you've done that, this lab should be pretty straightforward, but this next series of videos will walk you through step by step all of the lab instructions. So, the first thing to think about is what idea or area are you really excited about and do you want to explore? So what was the reason you even had an interest in joining this course? Because for this lab, we're going to be spending a lot of time looking at a certain area, thinking about different questions and trying to find data to answer those questions. And this is going to be pretty straightforward and simple. All we're going to be doing is visualizing that information and creating some basic data from it. So nothing analytical, nothing very detailed or hard, but it can take a little bit of time to find the data, get it in the right format, and get it structured correctly. So it can still take a bit of work, and I just want you to feel excited about the area you're going to be focusing on. So think about one specific location, geography, and a question you want to answer. Maybe it's crime, maybe it's flooding, maybe it's about trees, maybe it's about a species or an animal. Just think of why you got interested in GIS or this class, and then think of an area where you want to go look for data. So the next step, just make sure you don't copy my exact workflow. So I'm going to be showing how to get data for New Orleans, showing data sets, and walking through a specific problem for that city. So just use any other city or any other location. Don't go and use New Orleans as well, unless you are from New Orleans and it is the one thing you want to research. But please just pick a different location. So part of that. So I walked through New Orleans. And so in my example, I love the city. I've lived there for a few years, and I wanted to explore the problems between people, water, and how the city has recovered since Hurricane Katrina and what that looks like. And so for the ArcGIS Online portion of this exercise, you need to find one raster piece of information and one vector. So I'll tell kind of the story of what I wanted to decide and how I built it out. So in New Orleans, in the city, it has a rich and long relationship to water in the Mississippi River, and it's surrounded by water on all sides. And so what are those areas of the city that are most prone to flood? So there's my raster information that I found it added in. But then also, what does the city's poverty level look like? And where are those residents that are most susceptible to flooding in the city? So I have that layer added into my map or my analysis. And lastly, I wanted to actually be able to compare poverty to those flood-prone areas in a simple way. And so this is my result, just basically showing that relationship between poverty and flooding. Then I saved my map. And so a very simple but powerful visual tool to show that those comparisons between poverty and flooding in the city of New Orleans. So for ArcGIS Pro, for the second part of this lab, I wanted to look at New Orleans as well. And we had vector, so 2 types of vector information to pull in, and then one raster data set to pull in. And so in 2005, Hurricane Katrina came through New Orleans, and I wanted to understand, what did the change in the city look like since 2005? How have certain neighborhoods recovered, or how have they not? So step number 1 for me was to just get some imagery for New Orleans, to look at where the buildings today, what does the city look like? And my specific study area is a neighborhood called the Lower 9th Ward, which was one of the most impacted neighborhoods from the storm because of the flooding. And it's also a historically African-American neighborhood. Number 2 was downloading the vector data sets. So I grabbed building outlines for the city for today, so I didn't have to go and circle all of those buildings in the imagery. And I also got a streets layer, so I can kind of get just situated with what this area of the city looks like. So streets and buildings. The next step, I went and actually found some historical imagery. So I wanted to see what the city looked like prior to the storm. And this imagery is actually from 2004. So you can see all the houses and buildings that existed in the city at this point. And then for my digitization or creating data step, I actually started circling and creating squares around all of those buildings in the imagery from 2004. And then lastly, I have this really powerful result where I can actually now compare 2004 to today. So you can see here that the city was, especially in this neighborhood, was impacted severely. And even in just this one block, there have only been a few houses that have been rebuilt, and it certainly has not bounced back to what it was before or prior to Hurricane Katrina. It's changed a great deal. So I want you to get really excited about the data and information that you're putting together. Again, you're going to be spending some time finding data, finding maps, finding information, and thinking about the story you want to present with that data. And so first, think of an idea and spend a little bit of time exploring to see if you can actually find the information that can help, build your maps out. Because if it's something too specific, it might be really difficult to do. And especially if you're new to kind of looking for GIS data. Number two, please have fun with this. So first off, find an idea or think of a project idea that excites you and try to have fun with it and actually dive in and answer some questions with this. And then lastly, just follow the directions for the deliverables. So right inside of the lab, it details out how to share and submit the ArcGIS Online content, and also how to share the final sheet to show all the information you found and that you built out with ArcGIS Pro. So that's it. I'm really excited to see what everybody builds out in this lab. Spend some time, and if you run into trouble, just reach out to me via email. Thanks.